Hey everyone, RogueGold here, and today we have the Phase 2 PTS patch notes for the Division 2's upcoming Year 5 Season 1 update. The PTS, the second phase of it, just went live this morning, which is May 12th, so if you are on PC, feel free to dive into that. I will be streaming it later, but for now, we're going to dive into the patch notes because some significant changes have been made from Phase 1, and we've seen the implementation of some things that were meant for this update that did not make it into Phase 1, so there's a lot of stuff to cover, some good, some bad, but let's go over it and see what we think. If you end up enjoying the video, a like would be greatly appreciated, and be sure to click that subscribe button as well as turning on the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of my future Year 5 coverage. Without further ado, let's get into this. Alright, so yes, Year 5 Season 1 PTS Phase 2 patch notes, let's get to it, and they start out with Descent talking about the difficulty. This was one of my top areas of feedback for the first phase of the PTS. I made a whole dedicated video about it because I thought that there was a lot of improvements that could be made, and pretty much for the most part, I think they've hit on the majority of what I was wanting to see. So they say many of you go straight into Descent to experience it. We want to acknowledge some of the key changes. Difficulty post-Nemesis levels difficulty, which was the key area that many people said felt way undertuned. Up until the Nemesis, it's pretty organic, but once you pass that, which is at level 5, then around level 5, depending on, your heat gauge and all that, it seemed quite undertuned. At least you could gain so much power that you basically became unkillable, and the experience was just a bore fest from there on out. So they say based on feedback we received during PTS Phase 1, post-Nemesis difficulty was dramatically increased up to 39% compared to the previous version. This is awesome. I've not gotten to experience this for myself yet, but I very much hope that this is enough to still provide a challenge after you beat the Nemesis, and it just makes all of the leaderboard interactions for this mode and all of that stuff much more compelling. They also say difference between single and co-op experience, better balance between health, damage, and armor, increased difference between veteran, elite, and boss level enemies, and adjusted the rational level design system used for balancing and difficulty scaling. Now, I'm not 100% sure what all those mean, but I think that last one, I'm hoping that's referring to how they determine door spawns, waves of enemies, things like that. I think if they create some more variety there and just make it a bit less predictable, that could inherently increase the difficulty, so I'm not sure if that's what it's referring to, but that's my best guess. And as I said, we'll find out once we dive into the mode itself. They also talk about the hazards, change the placement and affected areas for some of the hazards, making them more intrusive and visible during gameplay, remove the option to bypass hazards from the shop. I think that's an awesome change, and increase the frequency of occurrence. All of these changes are going to make those hazards more present, more lethal, and that's how they should be. They were very avoidable in the past iteration, which again just decreased the overall difficulty and made it just, less compelling. So in combination, all of these difficulty changes I am 100% for, and I think and hope that they will dramatically increase the fun and the challenge of the experience, which is going to be awesome. I'm really excited to try all of that out. We also now finally have the reward system in place for Descent. So there's a lot to go over here, and the full link for this will be in the description below, so you can check it out and kind of get some more details there. But basically, they're saying that XP will be completed for Descent and split into 3 categories, and all of these reward tiers, basically, are split between whether you are still below level 40 and going through the campaign, or if you're post level 40 in the end game, then it gives you some different and more relevant stuff, right? So I'm primarily just going to focus the things here on what you'll get post level 40, because I think that's where the vast majority of you listening are actually at. So post level 40, you'll get seasonal XP when you play Descent. You get more the further on you go. That's great. Then you get certain types of caches depending on what level you are. For level 40, you can get exotic caches that contain everything except for raid exotics. Then you can also get a new simulation cache, which contains high-end quality items with 15% chance of dropping gear set and named gear. You also up here get the crafting material stuff, so you get that as well, and a new reconstructed cache, which contains named weapons and gear from seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think a lot of people are actually going to be quite happy with that, because that's a pretty good way to target some of those DZ exclusives that you otherwise have to, again, go to the DZ for. But those were always contained within seasonal caches if they were introduced with the season stuff. So anyway, I think the reconstructed cache should be pretty nice for those purposes, and all this stuff combined, again, depending on how much you get for how far you go, the actual balancing of that will need to be tested out, but at a base level, this all seems pretty good. And this isn't even mentioning the stuff that you can purchase at the NSA store after your run, similar to the countdown vendor that we have at the base of operations. Alright, so a lot of stuff here to cover for stability. The most important ones, you now have a better sense of when you're departing the mode. I saw some people did that by accident in Phase 1, though that should now be more clear. They added a tutorial for the NSA store, which again was that out of mode reward system I was talking about, and all of that stuff seems pretty good there. A lot of overall fixes were made here. The important one to point out, I think, is that the perfect companion that's on the chest piece, which again, that's usually a backpack talent, during phase 1, they were saying that that was a placeholder, but here it says it's not a mistake and we intend to keep it. So this is the first instance of a talent switching its pool. And this new named Henry chest piece on the perfected Electrique piece, which is the new brand set, is now going to give you perfect companion on your chest piece. So that's pretty interesting, and we'll see how that goes for balancing. Again, a lot more stuff there. Unfortunately, we do have one part of these patch notes that I am pretty displeased with, and that is this right here, where they have made a pretty significant change to the new Cavalier gear set from phase 1. Now, in phase 1, in those patch notes, I said off the bat that I was mega hyped for that gear set because it seemed like it would be a perfect inclusion into PvP. It would fit into the dynamics there really well, provide a really great counter for you and your team from status effect stuff, which is super prevalent and super strong in PvP, and there's notoriously been an overusage of it and a lack of ways to counter it. And the whole idea of the gear set was that it was going to share hazard protection with your whole team, which seemed like a really, really great implementation. However, that has now been changed, and I think they've gone so far in the other direction that I'm worried that this set, if it goes in this current iteration, is going to just completely take over the meta in PvP, and I don't want to see that happen. So the core idea here, it says in that first bullet point, they've changed the incoming skill damage to incoming damage and lower the value for the Cavalier gear set. So previously, again, it was giving you hazard protection and skill damage resistance. Now it's just incoming damage overall, and you can still share it with your entire team. So even though it says here they're reducing the values from 50 to 40, if you wear the chest piece for the amplification talent, it reduces the maximum from 70 to 50, you're still able to build up 50% damage resistance to everything and share that with your entire team. And as much as I would like to think that this would work well as a tank set, I know in my core, after playing Division for 7 years, that people are going to immediately find a way to turn this into the next meta, damage set. They're going to build 4 pieces of this, use the Picaros, use the Fox's Prayer, put crit everywhere, maybe even run like 4 reds because this gives you so much damage reduction, and just run in and try and face tank everything. That is how it is going to be used. Again, I wish that weren't the case. I wish it could fit in as a nice tank set and support set for the group, but I am almost positive that this is going to overtake so many other things in the game, and I really don't want to see that happen. It very much reminds me of like Classified Nomad in the first game, where maybe on paper it seems nice, but in practice it's just going to become the next most used thing, and any chance the players have to get insane amount of tankiness and damage reduction while still building damage, they're going to take advantage of. And you can still build a lot of damage in this game without those 4 main pieces, just with all the different types of bonuses you can get. So certainly I will try and test these changes to back up my findings, but notoriously there is a lack of people wanting to do PvP on the PTS, so I'm not sure there's really going to be much of a chance to do that. Just on paper then, I think this is going to break the meta in PvP. Just my opinion. Maybe you all have different ones, would love to hear down below, but overall, I think the implementation of this set in the first phase was great, and I thought it was going to be a really nice compliment, and I'm not sure why they felt compelled to change it, but this is the new implementation. Again, let me know what you guys think on that. For the rest of this section, there's just a lot of other changes that they put there. Quality of life improvements. We have the conflict XP rebalance, which they say here adds SHD shade progression to conflict, which is great. That is a awesome addition. I think it's going to make it a lot more viable as a game mode. I am a bit disappointed that there is no mention of the targeted loot stuff, of the exotic components and caches like they said they were contemplating. I know they never confirmed that, so I'm not saying, that they did, but I am disappointed that it seems like that's not coming in. I hope maybe that's still on the table for the future. I think the addition of those extra 2 things would make the mode even more viable as something to actually play and get rewarded for your time for. So I hope we see that, but for now we are getting the shade experience, and that's going to be very nice for people who play Conflict, myself included. They also have implemented the XP revamp for the entire game, so it will be very interesting to see what the values are on those for the rest of the activities in the open world. They've added a grants tab to make future compensation processes more streamlined, so that's nice. That can be found in the store. They have some of the things that they've been saying that they're going to do for a while, including down here, you can now put directives on raids. You can change the mission difficulty regardless of your open world setting. That's super nice because that was a big blocker. You can show selected directives on the mega map. There's a new quick grenade selection menu. This was actually on the first phase of the PTS. I discovered it near the end of my stream. Someone pointed it out to me and I checked it out, and it didn't seem like it was quite working then, but it was there. But this basically allows you to choose your grenade without going in your menu. Somewhat similar to Division 1, but you are still blocked by which specialization you're using, but overall it seemed like a nice addition, so that's pretty cool to see there. And overall, there's some more good quality of life things here. There's a new, you can skip the intro to the game and get in a little bit faster. You can do, see which items are part of a loadout. You can do the hide, mask, and signature weapon without having to go deep into the menus like you previously had to, so that's cool. And more stuff like that. Down here we have known issues, but for the most part, everybody, that is the patch notes for Phase 2 of the Year 5 Season 1 PTS. Let me know your thoughts. Again, a lot of very interesting stuff here. I'm very pleased by the Descent difficulty changes. I think those are going to make the mode way more compelling, way more fun to actually challenge yourself in. Really happy with some of the stuff like the XP and the rewards. That seems like it's all going to be great. Have some gripes with the stuff like the rebalancing of the gear set like we talked about. But overall, there's a lot of changes here, so I appreciate the sheer scale of things that they're tackling and trying to have us test out. And I'm excited to jump in and give those things a test indeed. Let me know your thoughts on everything we covered here. Would love to hear your feedback and all of that down below. As I mentioned earlier, I will be going live with Phase 2 of the PTS. If you're watching this video when it first comes out in just a couple hours here, I will leave the time in the pinned comments below. And that's going to do it for me today, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. RogueGold. Out.